these fancy things from my desk, so elevates my computer, so I'm standing rather than sitting. But hopefully we won't have a 4-hour meeting tonight. But I got to tell y'all, with all the Zooming meetings, been sitting in the chair too much. I needed to get up and stand and move around a little bit. I think it's helpful. So anyway, I think we're all here. The recording has started. I'd like to call this November 10th meeting of Charleston City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Del Chapo.
Here.
Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember Saccharin.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Member Brady. Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Waring.
Here.
Councilmember Seekings.
Here.
Councilmember Shade.
Present.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Appel.
Here.
Councilwoman Jackson.
Here.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. Excuse me, hit the wrong button. So next I'd like to, if y'all would like to join us, Councilmember Shade will lead us in an invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Madam Clerk. How do we seek to better understand the issues and concerns that confront our city, our state, and our country? And how your word compels us to respond as faithful leaders and citizens. We ask for eyes that are free from blindness so that we might see each other as brothers and sisters, one, and equal in dignity, especially those who are victims of abuse and violence, deceit, and poverty. We ask for ears that will hear the cries of children born and unborn, and those abandoned men and women oppressed because of race or creed, religion, or gender. We ask for minds that are open to receive wisdom and courage. We ask for hearts that are loving and accepting to those who we perceive as different from us. We ask for discernment so that we may be leaders who hear your word, live your love, and keep in the ways of your truth as we strive for justice and peace. And in particular, in honor of Veterans Day, we ask for blessings on all those who have served our country in the armed forces. We ask for healing of those veterans who have been wounded in body and soul. Bring solace to them and their families. We seek an end to all wars and the dawning of a new era of peace as a way to honor all veterans of past wars. Bring peace to our veterans and peace to the regions they fought in. And finally, we ask, dear God, that you approve this prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. If you join me, the flag over my shoulder to the right as we say our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
the flag
of the United
States
America.
of America,
The Republic.
and to the republic
which it
stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
justice
with
for
liberty
all.
and justice for all.
One day.
Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Thank you. I'll add my observation or reflection that tomorrow we all have a federal holiday for Veterans Day, and the city will be taking a holiday, but it won't mean that we won't be remembering and thanking all our veterans who have served, protecting freedom in our country. I hope over the next year to be even more active with mayors from across the country. I've been blessed to have been asked by the new president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors to head up a task force on Veterans Affairs for mayors throughout the country. We'll hopefully have our first meeting in January coming up. So anyway, I know y'all will all be celebrating and thanking veterans tomorrow. We will all do that together. So the presentation on our meeting agenda tonight is from Stephen Long from Clemson Extension, maybe Clemson University, And sorry about that Notre Dame experience the other night. Didn't quite work out for you, but I know that's just a few and far between occasion. And Kimberly Dean, I believe, is with us. Kim from the United States Department of Agriculture. I don't know if Kim or Steve is going to lead off, but they're going to tell us about the Longhorn beetle that you might not be aware of, but apparently it's something we need to find out about. Kim or Steve? Stephen?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I am still reeling over that loss, but I think we'll survive. We have bigger fish to fry here in South Carolina, so we won't worry too much about that loss, and we'll live to fight another day. But first, I want to start off by thanking the council members for in your time, Mayor, this afternoon. We will be brief because I know you generally have a lot of business to cover. The purpose for our meeting tonight is just to meet with you all and update you on what we have going on in your city, and to keep you updated of our progress on the pest, let you know about significant program changes along the way, and then of course give you a chance to ask any important questions you have at the end. So hopefully you all receive our community email update. We're sending that out about bi-weekly now, so there are various updates there through email concerning many of the things that we'll discuss tonight, but we'll also discuss a few extra things in addition to that. But to give you a bit of background, if you're not familiar with that community email or any of the other messages that we've been sending out, is that we discovered the Asian Longhorn beetle in the Hollywood community around May 28th of this year. And that is a significant pest find. That is a federally regulated pest, so federally regulated by USDA, regulated by many foreign countries, many of our trade partners, and no one wants it, and no one wants to get it. So when you find it in your state, it is a significant find and one that we need to take very seriously. So we discovered that pest on May 28th. We received several lab confirmations the following week, and then we deployed alongside USDA. So the way these operations generally work is USDA as our federal leaders in plant regulatory. They partner with the state regulatory agency in South Carolina. That's Clemson University Department of Plant Industry. So we partnered together on June 11th and deployed to that Hollywood community there in the Stone Links golf course subdivision in Hollywood. And we were able to immediately confirm that the pest was there. There were infested trees in the surrounding area, and we began our plant pest emergency response at that time. So since that date, we've been actively surveying and getting boots on the ground. So major props to USDA for supplying most of that manpower there to help us survey in the meantime. And since that time, we've been able to implement a quarantine for that area of Hollywood, and that's approximately 58.6 square miles. And we can provide details about what a quarantine means if you would like, but essentially that quarantine just helps us to keep the pest in that location to help prevent additional spread while we pursue eradication efforts. And the major eradication efforts here are removing all life stages of the pest from those areas. So that will involve tree removals. And again, we can answer any questions you have about those. But the biggest thing that we like to share before I pass it off to Ms. Dean to cover her parts are discussing why this pest is more important than others we might find here in South Carolina. The biggest thing is this pest does kill trees. It doesn't kill trees in a way that many other pests do. It's such a large beetle. It's approximately 1.5 inches long, about a 1/2 inch wide. The larva is similar in size, so it lays several eggs on a tree. And then those larvae bore throughout the tree, creating what I like to call 3/8 to 1/2 inch size drill bit size holes throughout the tree. If you get enough of those through a tree, it breaks down the structural integrity of that tree. A windstorm, tropical storm, hurricanes like we get plenty of here in South Carolina and Charleston is enough to have these trees break apart and become a burden on society, both a human health hazard, but also it kills trees, a loss of ornamental value, a loss of property value to the landowners there. And then of course there are trade impacts, which we haven't talked much about, but having this pest in South Carolina and in the United States, if left unaddressed, could significantly negatively impact trade. So it's something that we want to eradicate as quickly as possible. And I'll pass it off to Ms. Dean to add a few more things to that.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dean?
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, so I just wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about what we have done since we've been down here. As Stephen said, we've had boots on the ground since about June. In that time, we've been focusing primarily on detection and delimitation survey. We've got people out on the landscape, in the woods, interacting with property owners and getting permission to actually survey their trees, because that's our primary mode of identifying infested trees. That's what we're looking for primarily, are the infested trees, not the beetle itself. But we have completed pretty much a first delimitation survey. So we've identified the extent of the infestation. And since June, we have found about 3,100 infested trees, and we continue to find more. And through those delimitation efforts with the survey, we were able to identify at least the preliminary extent of the infestation, and state and federal quarantine orders were issued back in October to put 58.6 square miles under quarantine. So, the reason this is important for Charleston is that there are western portions of Charleston and Johns Island over in that area where Savannah Highway and Main Road meet that are within that quarantined area. I think there's only been a couple of infested trees found in actual properties that are listed as Charleston. But as Stephen said, those infested trees, they do have to be removed because of the nature of how the beetle infests the tree. There's really no other strategy other than removing the tree and chipping it up to destroy all stages of that insect. And we do intend to start tree removals next week in Hollywood, in some of the most impacted areas where we've had trees standing for a couple months since we first detected them. So we did issue a short-term contract to Davie Resource Group to do those tree removals, and we will ultimately have a longer-term contract in place that will probably be a small business local contractor. There is also the intention to have a full-time Asian Longhorn Beetle cooperative eradication program set up in the area. I'm a temporary employee right now. I normally work in another part of the country, and I'm just here on temporary assignment. So we do plan on hiring full-time staff, and we've been working really closely with Clemson and the College of Charleston to set up a base of operations and an office in Hollywood. And we, intend to be in the area for several years until we eradicate Asian Longhorn Beetle, because that is our goal. It has been accomplished in other areas. This is the 6th state to identify an Asian Longhorn Beetle infestation, and we have declared eradication in other areas. So we know it's possible, and that's ultimately our goal. And through all of these operations, we've been doing survey, the quarantine. We've been doing a lot of outreach efforts as well. And we are really, we think it's really important to get community buy-in, get property owner permission. We're working with private landowners every step of the way, from when we first step on their property to do survey, through the tree removals. And even after that, we follow up to make sure that everything's okay. Properties have been restored after tree removals have been conducted. So that's really important for us, just making sure the community's involved, that they know what we're doing, that we're being as transparent as possible. And that's a primary reason also that we wanted to have this meeting and be here, was to be available to answer your questions, but also find out in what way you would like to stay informed as to what our program's doing on a daily basis. So I guess I just wanted to open it up for questions, see if anyone had any questions.
Well, we'll take any questions, and I'll say in advance, Kim and Stephen, thank you for being with us tonight and sharing this. And we have an arborist with the city of Charleston, David Grant, and I'm going to make sure he connects with y'all so we continue communications and do whatever we can to help you in your efforts. I must admit, I didn't know a lot about the Asian Longhorn Beetle, but it sounds like that's somebody we don't want to welcome to our city. Councilmember Gregory.
Yes. How long did it take for 3,100 trees to be infected? And the second part of the question is, any particular type tree or any tree? And then the last question is, if we're removing that many trees, will it have any kind of effect on flooding?
So I'll take a stab at some of those questions. Asian longhorn beetle primarily attacks maple trees, which while those are fairly widespread in this area, they're not nearly as frequent. You don't have as high density of maple trees as the other Asian longhorn beetle eradication programs in like Ohio or the Midwest, the Northeast. So that's a benefit. There's not as much host trees down here. They do attack several other hardwood trees, but they do not attack oaks or pines or some of the other really valuable tree species that South Carolina has. We did remove one tree so far and sent that up to our researchers in Massachusetts to do some dendrochronology, and they dated that one tree back to 8 years, so 2012. We know it's been in the area since at least 2012. It could have been here longer. We don't know yet. We do plan to do some more sampling to see if we can find any older infestation. But in the other areas of the United States where we found Asian longhorn beetle, that 7 to 8 years is usually how long it takes for us to identify an infestation. And I would say, having 3,000 infested trees is pretty typical when we first find an infestation. And as far as, I was just gonna
impact on flooding.
Yeah, I don't know that it will have any impact on flooding. It's a pretty widespread area where we're going to be taking out those trees. And it's not, we're not like clear cutting. It's very, very selective harvesting. So there should be plenty of other trees, left in the area to prevent any sort of major flooding issues.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Dean or Mr. Long? Well, thank you again for being with us this evening, and I'll get David in touch with y'all so we continue a relationship and communication. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we don't have any public hearing matters tonight. Next up is approval of our city council minutes from October 27th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion, any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up would be our citizens participation period. And Madam Clerk, if you will help lead us through that.
Yes, we have 6 people signed up to speak. And Mayor, would you like to set a time limit?
Yes, let's say 2 minutes would be fine. Yes, ma'am.
All right. The first person we have up to speak is Trenham Walker. And Mr. Walker, if you're on the line, if you could press *6 to unmute yourself. Trenham Walker.
Trenham.
All right, next is James Wilson. He said he would be available to answer any questions that council might have regarding the Magnolia PUD. Mr. Wilson, did you want to say anything? If you do, just press *6. All right, next is Karen Beard. Miss Beard, if you're ready, if you could press *6.
Yes, this is Karen Beard. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Karen. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you. Please proceed.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the Charleston Coalition of Wireless Safety Standards. In July 2019, the governor of New Hampshire signed a law to establish a legislative commission to study the environmental and health effects of evolving 5G technology. And the report was submitted to the New Hampshire governor on November the 1st, 2020. We have placed hard copies of the 15 recommendations made in the New Hampshire report into the council mail out with the council clerk. And we filed a link to the report in its entirety with the council clerk to be sent to you. It is the most thorough and well-documented study done thus far on the wireless radiation issue. The commission consisted of medical doctors, engineers, a scientist, state agency members, and 2 industry representatives. Testimony was heard from 10 experts in physics, epidemiology, toxology, and public policy. Every expert, except the telecom representative, acknowledged the large body of science showing wireless radiation can negatively affect humans, especially children. Other states are moving in this same direction. And although state and federal mandates are tight now, legislators are becoming aware that they have not heard the whole wireless radiation story from the telecom industry. The New Hampshire report can empower you to take action to lead us to safe technology in Charleston. And we urge you to read what was recommended by this commission, for it will not be the only report of its kind. Several of the recommendations made by the Legislative Commission in New Hampshire are the same as we have been requesting of our Charleston city government. Thank you, Council and Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Beer. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Kristen White. And Ms. White, if you're on the line, if you could press *6.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm also speaking on behalf of the Charleston Coalition for Wireless Safety Standards. I'm making remarks regarding recommendation number 7 in the New Hampshire report. As you know, the residents of Charleston are opposed to small cell antennas on school properties and in front of homes. We have mounted a campaign to educate school administrators, and we feel confident that students in Charleston County schools will not have new cell towers erected on their school grounds. The 7th recommendation of the New Hampshire report suggests a requirement that any new wireless antenna located on a municipal right-of-way, that it be set back from schools and residences. They state this should be enforced by the municipality during the permit process unless the owners of the residence waive the restriction. The current Charleston small cell ordinance does not have a setback restriction from homes. The current ordinance allows a small cell antenna to be placed every 300 feet, which will be on every lamppost in our neighborhoods, in your neighborhoods. In most Charleston area neighborhoods, the lampposts are directly in front of homes, some as close as 10 feet from bedroom windows. This is unacceptable. The New Hampshire Commission states that it is important to prioritize resident safety and stresses that 5G is only an upgrade. It is not the provision of wireless service to underserved areas that legislators speak about. The Commission shows additional rationale for recommendation number 7, calling for setbacks from homes in Appendix K of the report, and we strongly urge you to please read that. And again, I was involved in the Moultrie Middle School project where parents were 100% opposed to a cell tower being placed directly on school property. And please note that the plan last November was that tower was going to be situated directly on the recess field next to the cafeteria and gym, in direct correlation with where the students spend 8 hours a day. So we really, really please need these restrictions for these to be set back from homes and schools. Thank you very much, City Council and Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. White. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Jessica, and I may be mispronouncing the last name, Rochelu. And Jessica, if you're on the line, if you could press *6 to unmute yourself. All right, next is Michelle Capps. And Ms. Capps, if you're on the line, if you could press *6.
This is Jessica Rushlew. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey,
Hello?
Jessica. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm sorry. I don't know what went wrong.
You're good.
I am also speaking on behalf of the Charleston Coalition of Wireless Safety Standards, and I'm addressing recommendation number 5 of the New Hampshire 5G report. That recommendation suggests regular collection of RF measurements for all wireless facilities. Measurements should be made by an independent contractor and the cost paid by the installer. Charleston Coalition for Wireless Safety Standards has requested a revision to our city's small cell ordinance requiring wireless emission measurements be made annually by an independent certified engineer, which includes aggregate emissions from all co-located equipment. The reason for this request is that since all the antennas will be under 200 feet in height, the FCC will not be monitoring them. If our city does not monitor the small cell facilities, the only monitoring that will take place will be done by the telecom companies who install them. After an antenna is erected, the telecom companies can change the signal strength or the type without notifying the city or the residents. Since the measuring meters for 5G millimeter waves are so expensive, homeowners will not be able to purchase on their own. So they will have no idea what amount of RF exposure their children are receiving. Our current small cell ordinance references only a maximum permissible RF exposure report. 8 of the small cell applications we reviewed had not even filed an FCC compliance report. So in the area of monitoring wireless radiation emissions, our current small cell ordinance is grossly lacking. We urge you to read that New Hampshire report, recommendation number 5 especially, and revise our small cell ordinance accordingly. Thank you, Council and Mayor.
Thank you, Miss Jessica. Appreciate it.
And last is Michelle Capps. And Miss Capps, if you could press *6.
Hey, I am Michelle Capps, and I'm also speaking on behalf of the Charleston Coalition for Wireless Safety Standards. I'm addressing recommendation number 3 of the New Hampshire 5G report. Recommendation number 3 suggests requiring signs on every 5G antenna indicating RF radiation is being emitted. The sign should be at eye level and visible from 9 feet away. They include a sample sign in Appendix 1. All large cell towers have fencing around them at their base to protect the public. This will not be the case with small cell facilities. They will have nothing around them for protection. The antennas used in small cell facilities for 4G are the same as are used in large towers. The strength may be less, but the type of frequency is the same. Our current small cell ordinance refers to minimum approach distance to the public, but makes no mention of a sign to actually alert the public of the potential harm in standing under the 5G antenna. As electrosmog increases, more and more people are becoming electrosensitive. The part of our population must be alerted when powerful RF emissions are close by. All 15 New Hampshire report recommendations clearly indicate that the Commission concludes wireless radiation can be harmful to the public. This is the first of many reports coming to the foreground. We urge you to read this report and see for yourself that it is authentic, stands on scientific information, and is a product of legislative action. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capps. Appreciate it.
And I'll go back and call out the 2 previous names, Trenham Walker. Mr. Walker.
Madam Clerk, can you hear me?
Yes,
can.
sir. Mr. Walker, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tecklenburg and council members. I am here today to briefly address the settlement that you will have before you involving High Real Estate Group. This is an appeal from the Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design over who could better protect a tree. We had a mediation, and thanks to Eric Schultz, the property owner and the city have reached what both sides believe to be a very beneficial arrangement for the protection of the tree. We ask that council approve the settlement so that we can get it approved by circuit court. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Walker. Appreciate that. And James Wilson?
Yes, and I think
yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is James Wilson. I'm only here just in the event that council members have any questions about the Magnolia PUD amendment, which is up for second reading, but I don't have any additional comments. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for being available.
And that was everyone that had signed up to speak. And then for the comments that we received, 19 people were in support of Charleston Coalition for Wireless Safety Standards. Historic Charleston Foundation said that they were grateful to the mayor and council for granting a reprieve from demolition of the St. Julian Divine Center smokestacks. They requested that council set a date for the task force meeting in order to allow time to identify a preservation solution. One person opposed the mask mandate and believed that mask wearing should be optional. And one person expressed concerns about how Uber treated its drivers. And those were all of the comments that we received.
Great. Thank you so much. So it's come to my attention from Councilmember Del Chapo that one of our newly elected officials is on the call here with us. That would be my fellow Rotarian, Mark Smith, who got elected to the House District representing Daniel Island and the Kanehoy Peninsula. Mark, are you on the line? Can you hit *6 maybe and address us for just a moment? We want to congratulate you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to just have a brief hello. Thank you all so very much for your hard work. I've been watching you online and watching your facial expressions as you go through the items. Having sat in those council chairs one term myself, I'm looking forward, Mr. Mayor and council members, to being a very strong advocate and voice for not only District 99, but all of the Low Country, for all of the many items and issues we have facing us serving our joint constituents around the area. My cell number hasn't changed. It's published everywhere. It's pretty much public knowledge. Happy to share that again here on public record, 843-442-8371. Mr. Mayor, council members, please never hesitate to call me for any issue, and I look forward to serving alongside all of you in Columbia.
Thank you, Representative. I'll always call you Mark, and congratulations again, and we look forward to working with you. So that,
thank you, guys.
That concludes our citizens participation period. And so next up is our participations and communications. We have approval for appointments to the Church Creek Stormwater Drainage Basin Authority.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Griffin.
Yes, sir. I would like it if council would be inclined to defer this matter to the next meeting, because I'd like to have a conversation with you regarding a couple of these appointments before we take a vote.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to defer, which is fine. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have a few reappointments, one new appointment to the Commission of the Arts.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion on this one. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we're honored, blessed to have with us longstanding member and chair of our History Commission, Harlan Green, Professor Green, to give us a report from the History Commission. Harlan?
Well, thank you all, and thank you for allowing me to be here. I'll try to be as brief as I can. And we are submitting a resolution this evening, and I thought what I would do is maybe explain what it is. It's not specifically focused per se on the John C. Calhoun statue, but the larger issue of history, its making, marking, and its unmarking. Some new members of City Council may not know that this commission that I serve on has been part of the city infrastructure since 1933. Soon after the city passed that historic zoning law in 1931, preserving the body of history of the city and setting up the Board of Architectural Review, people in the city also realized they needed a commission to sort of interpret the soul of the city. So for nearly 90 years, citizens have been tapped for their knowledge of history and have been appointed by the mayor and approved by council to help Charleston navigate and interpret all of its public monuments and plaques that are on public property. I've been on the commission, I think, about 12 years and have been chairman for about 4. During that time, I have to say that I've witnessed citizens in action, those of us who are Black and white, men and women, those of us who are centrist, left of center and right of center. We've all been putting our personal opinions aside to work without bias to interpret the history of our city. We mostly do this invisibly, but before pre-COVID, we did manage to pack the city council chambers as scores of people came to see us deal with issues that had been politicized. But in the past few years, we've come up with a series of best practices. If a citizen or the city itself wants to erect a statue or a marker, we review that proposal. We now require footnotes to facts, and we work hard to choose language that is neither inflammatory or insinuating. We've approved markers recently for the Coast Guard, the Mendel Rivers Federal Building, a lot of civil rights sites, and we went through months of very tense meetings regarding the statue of Denmark Vesey, but we did it. We all succeeded in being objective. The reason I'm here tonight and the reason the members of this commission have asked me to speak to y'all is to let y'all know that via this resolution that we're submitting this evening, that we're here to offer our help in navigating difficult issues. We have the expertise, we have the experience, and we have the desire to help. Specifically, we have been researching what other cities are doing regarding changing of names and removing of statues. I say up front that we don't have the answer to these issues, but we want to help the city come up with a policy of best practices of reviewing challenged and challenging monuments. Just the way Charleston has been a national and even international leader in the history of preservation, we think Charleston can come up with a transparent and respectful manner of addressing markers and monuments. We know it's hard work, but with our differing views, we unite in our love of Charleston, and we respect her as much as we love and respect the truth. Maybe we've hit our light under a bushel if y'all don't know about our work, and we now plan to report our work quarterly to the city. I'll just sum up by saying again to you on City Council, you have at your disposal a group of citizens committed to the truth about our past to make our future better. And thank you for accepting our resolution this evening, and thank you for listening to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service, Harlan. We really appreciate it. Absolutely. Councilmember Griffin.
Mr. Mayor, I have the pleasure also to be appointed to this commission by you, and it has been truly a remarkable pleasure. Harlan is an amazing chairman, and he is absolutely right. We have so many different personalities and so many different beliefs on that commission. But what ends up happening is because we have so many different backgrounds, we end up coming up with something that is really a compromise. And we do everything we can to stick straight to the facts and not let our personal beliefs get involved. So as we continue to move forward with the Racial Conciliation Commission and the History Commission, you have a subcommittee in the Racial Conciliation Commission that is also discussing these items. And I support Harlan in the fact that we want to make sure that everybody's working together and that we're not working on things separately, which wouldn't be a good thing. So I told the commission that this would be a good idea, just especially for our new members of council, just to note that our History Commission is here. They're working diligently, and it would be good for them to submit the report to the Recreation Commission on a quarterly basis. Thank you.
Terrific. That's a great idea, Councilmember Griffin and Mr. Chairman Harlan, to have a quarterly report to council. It would just keep us more connected. Councilmember Gregory.
Yeah, Councilman Griffin, thank you for that, because you're also on the Commission for Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation. So I'm glad you're in both places. I would like to add to what Councilman Griffin said, and that is to make sure that there is coordination with our subcommittee on monuments and memorials, just so that we're all sort of in the same space and not necessarily in opposition to each other. So I'm glad that Councilman Griffin is a member, because he's in both camps. And I'm sure that he'll make sure that that kind of coordination exists, because I think it's very, very important at this point, given the fact that the mayor has established this commission, and this commission is charged with specific actions, specifically as it relates to memorials and monuments. And those recommendations will be coming to the mayor within the next 90 days. And I'm going to make sure that that subcommittee coordinates with the History Commission.
Terrific. Great. Can I entertain a motion that we approve the resolution?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Again, Mr. Chairman, Harlan, thank you for your service, and it was very, very timely and appropriate that you came to us this evening with this resolution. Thank you for that.
And I thank you all.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Councilmember Gregory.
if Harlan can, it would be great if there can be a meeting between himself and the chairman of the subcommittee on memorials and monuments. I think it'll make things a bit more smoother. And we can provide that information to you.
That'd be great. And I'd be happy to convey information back to my group so that we can all be on the same page at the same time. Thank you, Councilman Gregory.
Thank you, Harlan.
Good idea. Councilmember Saccharin, did you want to be heard?
I just wanted to say to Mr. Green, I'll make that connection for you with Dr. Felice Knight, who's chairing that subcommittee. So I'm happy to make that connection.
Well, that's great. Felice was a student of mine a long time ago. It would be great to see her.
Excellent. She learned from the best. There you go. So y'all, pardon me, this wasn't on the agenda, but while we're talking about committees and commissions, we'll have our first meeting of the smokestack task force next week. I think that's been set. We decided to wait until this re-inspection got done last week, and the report is supposed to be in our hands this week. So I have called that group together. I don't think it required an approval of council after y'all set it up, but they will be meeting for their first time next week. It includes council members Del Chapo, Mitchell, a representative of the Historic Charleston Foundation and Preservation Society, 2 staff members, and 2 members of the East Side neighborhood. So next would be a request for approval on a proposed settlement agreement between the city and High Real Estate Group. Mr. Walker mentioned it in his remarks. Susan, did we have a motion already to approve?
Second.
Second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, a brief update on our city's response to COVID-19. We have nothing to vote on tonight, so this should be brief. Tracy McKee.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. Slideshow. Okay. So we recently exceeded 10 million cumulative cases, COVID cases in the US. And not only did we exceed 10 million cases, but over the last 7 days, we've had, for the last 7 days, we have hit a new daily high of more than 120,000 cases. So that occurred on the 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Looking at kind of a 7-day window, we've seen a 34% increase in new cases compared to the previous 7 days. Looking at the city, zip code level, you can see by this line, we've had just a mild trend upwards in cases at the city zip code level. And if we look at the 7-day pattern, you can kind of see how we've kind of gone up and down, but still kind of just a small, steady trend upwards. Over the last 7 days, it was a 14% decrease in cases compared to the previous week. But if we look at the week prior, it was actually a 22% increase in cases. A couple of things are kind of starting to jump out at me if we do look at the zip code level. 29401 the number of active cases per 1,000 is a little higher, as well as 29455. So those two zip codes have a little higher prevalence of active cases, and their growth rates are a little bit higher. So that's something to keep an eye on over the next week or so. Employee cases, we seem to be holding very, very steady with employee cases, which is very good news. We currently have 3 active cases. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had 138 cases. And to date, we have actually done 751 employee tests, and our wellness team has done an incredible job of doing all the contact tracing for each of those employee tests that had to be done. So our medical partners seem to be very nervous, and I think rightfully so, about the upcoming holidays and kind of everyone's plans for that. So I just kind of wanted to, number one, kind of show this graph of Canada, their cases in Canada since Canadian Thanksgiving. You can see that they've seen a surge in cases since then. And from my understanding from DHEC is they are seeing some clusters of cases as a result of kind of family gatherings such as birthday parties and similar. So another reason to be, very thoughtful and vigilant of how everyone spends their Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. And they have some really great guidance, CDC and DHEC, that is available on the South Carolina DHEC page to help you evaluate your risk, as well as evaluate risk for any holiday events that you might be considering attending. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tracy, y'all? All right, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate the update, and let's keep up the good work. So we'll go on now to our committee reports. First up is Committee on Public Safety, Councilmember Shade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The Public Safety Committee met yesterday afternoon at 2 o'clock. We received an update from Amy March on the Turn and Leave program. We try to get an update from her on a yearly basis. She has continued to experience success with the number of folks that she has in her program. She limits it to 50 men out of prison. And her recidivism rate is down to 80% success rate of keeping people out of going back to prison and being charged with a crime. The national rate is 67% after 3 years, so she's ahead of that curve. She gave us a report on the number of her T-shirt business that they've successfully launched and had sales of over $230,000 with that. She's been nationally recognized. She's opening up a program in Colombia. And I think she's also trying to get that out in other states as well. So good report from her, good success rate. The city was one of the first municipalities to be successful and helping her with this program under prior administration. So we were always glad to get an update from her. We got a report and we approved the agreement with the Charleston Housing Authority. I think this agreement and also the Justice Innovation Lab is what we had discussed in our Ways and Means report. And if Steve Rumlin is on the line, Steve, are you available to sort of give us a quick synopsis of those two items on the Justice Innovation and the Housing Authority?
I am. So the Housing Authority agreement is for 4 Housing Authority unit officers, which is similar to what we had last year and previous years. This is the contract for 2021. One thing that is different is that we used to provide a supervisor. That's not going to happen this next year. And this is falling under our community-oriented policing division, and Captain Thompson's in charge of that. So there's 4 officers. They work from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 1 week, and then the next they rotate to Friday through Monday. So they cover all the days, and they'll all be working together in the housing units.
And then if the report on this, we also approved with the agreement with Justice Innovation Lab, which ties into our racial bias audit.
That's correct. So a couple of the recommendations and issues that came out of the racial bias audit had to do with our traffic stop data, how we analyze that to determine what that actually means, and also some data collection practices. We have several different systems that we work with, and this would hopefully help us to coordinate between those systems so we get accurate data that we can report to the public. And then at the end of this project, they would also be producing a report with their recommendations, any recommendations they have with regards to changes to policy and the results of their analysis of our data.
And we recommended approval on both of those items. And then finally, the other, I've got you available to see, we also agreed to amend our ordinance dealing with the definition of abandoned buildings. And you want to talk about that real quick as well?
Right. So under the Code Section 21-54, it defines what a vacant building is, and it currently is that it has to be both unoccupied and unsecured in order to meet the definition of a vacant building. We've changed the "and" to an "or," so it basically clarifies and broadens the definition of a vacant building. It does exempt buildings that are unoccupied, residences, second residences, or if a family is on vacation for an extended period of time, it would not apply to those buildings. And that it also requires the owners to put up trespassing signs in order that the police department can place people that are on the property of these vacant structures on trespass, so they're not living in these vacant buildings or around them.
Thank you, Steve, for that update. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that those items be approved.
All right. Any discussion or question about any of those items? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you for your work on that. That will give us some more flexibility, particularly in a central business district of dealing with abandoned buildings.
Mayor, Mayor, I'm not finished. One more item on public safety. We received a report from on our municipal court administration. We've asked all of the judges to join us for this meeting. All but one appeared. As you know, we elected and appointed two new, Lindsey Bird and Emmanuel Ferguson, Judge Ferguson to handle the DUIs cases. As you know, we've had a backlog of cases pending in my municipal court system. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19, the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court issued a memorandum regarding the administration of justice on all courts, from circuit court down to summary courts, including municipal courts. So they've been operating under a different kind of set of rules on how to handle jury and non-jury cases. All jury cases have been suspended, and then they've been dealing remotely with other cases on non-jury matters. The Chief Justice issued a memorandum on September 25th of this year to re-crank up jury trials. The court administration for the city has submitted a plan. It has gone through our city review, and it's for the court administration in Columbia for that plan to be approved. There was some tweaks that needed to be done. So hopefully, either by the end of this month or probably more like in December, we'll have the capacity to start having jury trials in municipal court. And as lawyers, we all know this: the cases can't move unless there's a threat of a jury trial hanging over the parties' heads on both the prosecution side and the defense side. So that's going to have a huge impact. But in spite of that, in spite of not having that ability to have jury trials, they have been moving cases. And so we did get a report that the numbers on both DUI-related and non-DUI cases are much more manageable. And I think it's a tribute to the two new hires that we've had. Judge Bird and Judge Ferguson have come up with some good ideas, something innovative, including pretrial conferences. So we're all making progress on that front. I wanted just to give you an update that, and that's critical. So in the past, we have not met with court administration on a regular basis. Our goal is to do that on a yearly basis, so we can report to council before the end of our calendar year what is going on over there to make sure that our citizens are being treated fairly in the municipal court. Cases are being handled on a fair manner, but also a judicial manner as well. So nothing to vote on over there. I just wanted to give you all an update as to where we've been standing with moving cases, and that I think we made a very good choice with our 2 hires over there. And so we're very, very pleased with the progress being made.
Great, terrific. Any questions of public safety? Hearing none, thank you for that report. Moving on to Committee on Public Works, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Committee on Public Works met yesterday. We passed items A1 and 2, which were dedication of roadways, and I'll move for the approval.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
The Stormwater Report under, as you see on the agenda, B1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all passed unanimously, but I'd like to point out one that involved Council of Governments brought forward by Councilwoman Jackson, where the city and the town is James Island going to be working on a drainage project and cost sharing to get it done. So anytime we can cost share with government, it makes sense. These are alliances, 5 years ago we didn't have. So thank you, Council Lady Jackson, for bringing that forward. Mr. Fountain, do you have any of these that you want to highlight that you'd like? Well, the doo-wop, I'm sorry, was talked about in Ways and Means, but the doo-wop watershed agreement with the county and the city is another one that's going to be cost sharing, bringing solutions that I believe touch on, I think it was 5 council districts. So that's really important. And that's in one of the older areas where development was made prior to stormwater rules even being on the books, so to speak. So anytime you can go into the older areas and rectify what wasn't done initially, it's a big victory for the people. Mr. Fountain, is there anything you want to highlight?
Councilman Warren, I think the highlight of the doo-wop was definitely the right one to focus on. I think that's a great thing to be moving from the conceptual evaluation work into some real design and permitting work so we can keep going towards construction. So I appreciate you already doing a good job with that one.
Thank you, Mr. Fountain. So I move approval on all those items on the.
I'll second.
All right. So if I may add to the discussion before we accept those, there were 2 items that did not convey over to Ways and Means. One was a discussion of a small project for Highland Street on James Island that Councilmember Jackson brought forward. And it's another cooperation between us and another governmental entity. So we're going to work, we agreed to work together with the town of James Island on a small project there. But importantly, number B, little Roman numeral 4, was our application for a similar community development block grant for the Earhart tunnel extension. And maybe we're going to come back to Ways and Means once it gets more specific. But the one for Cooper Jackson was on Ways and Means, but Earhart was not. So I just thought I'd point that out. Matt, is that going to come back to council, or is this the only?
Yes. So there's 2 different application deadlines for those 2 grants. The design application deadline is before the next council meeting. The construction implementation funding application is after the next council meeting. So we are intending to bring that one back at next Ways and Means with more information. It's also a more substantive component of the drainage fund rather than the design one, which is matched out of the TIF. So has readily available funding already allocated towards that work.
Great, gotcha. Well, that explains that. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do think that it might be important for the public, and especially if we still have our newly elected Representative Smith. Congratulations, Mr. Smith. But to make a note that this grant, I mean, maybe we would be applying for some portion of it, but really it's an alternate way of trying to finance what everyone agrees is a very strategic addition to our spring fish burn drainage program, to be able to add MUSC into the whole flooding mitigation zone. So we had put what we thought was a winning request to the state legislature and the governor for budgeting this year, and they have not acted on that. And I really think that, you know, we have a new delegation, a few new members to our delegation, and I don't think we should let that go. That's just me speaking personally, but I hope that we can, you know, sort of rally as a council to make sure that our state leaders know how important it is to protect the medical district, if nothing else. So I really hope that we can make something out of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, without further ado, to accept the actions of the Committee on Public Works, would you please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Anything else, Councilmember Waring?
No, Mr. Mayor, that's it for us.
Great, thank you. Next is our Committee on Recreation, Councilmember Gregory.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Recreation Committee met yesterday.
Today.
I'm sorry, today. Met today, and we recommend approval of the 2 items as presented.
Great. We got a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, before moving on, I do have one question with recreation. Can somebody tell me where the, I guess, bid process is for the Carl Richardson Park over in Ashleyville? Jason on the line. Can anybody give us a quick update?
Jason is at his mother's 80th birthday. So,
Ooh, forget that. We definitely give him a pass.
I know Ruth Jordan was telling me today at our staff report that she had a kind of pre-bid meeting over there with prospective MBE business participants. So I believe either the solicitation has gone out or it's about to go out.
Okay, well, thank you.
Anybody on the line have staff?
This is Wes Chappell. I'll get an update tomorrow and make sure that we send that out to you for sure.
That's great. Thanks so much, Wes.
Perfect. Thank you, Wes. So back to you, Councilmember Gregory, on Committee on Ways and Means.
I move that we
Second.
Submit it.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have our bills up for second reading. We got 5 bills.
Move
For
for
1
approval
through
1
5.
through 5. Oh, second.
Second.
Move that we take 1 through 5 first.
Second.
Okay, we're going to take 1 through 5 together. Any discussion on any of the 5? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification.
Second.
5 items. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. So next, we have 1 bill up for first reading.
Second.
And this is to create a non-standard service district for undergrounding in the Country Club 2 neighborhood over on James Island. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now, since this undergrounding matter came up, if it's the pleasure of council, it'll just take about 3 or 4 minutes. Tracy has prepared just a little update for what the undergrounding committee has been up to. If that excites you, if not, we can put it off to a future meeting.
She could send that to us email.
To break up here, by the way. I mean, it is just after 6 o'clock, and we're going to finish.
Okay, we might set a record, Tracy. We'll come back to it, or we can send it out. I'll just say that Tracy and the team have been hard at work. We're going to be coming to council probably before the end of the year with a major change to our ordinance on undergrounding and non-standard service to make it easier to use money that we got sitting in the bank to put utilities on the ground. We need to utilize those funds, and we've been working on a very thoughtful plan to help make it easier. So that being said, the next regular meeting of City Council is going to be Tuesday, November 24th. Y'all have a happy and thankful Veterans Day tomorrow. Anything else for the good of the order? Councilmember Sack.
I'm so sorry. I know everyone wants to go. I know we have our ad hoc budget meeting on Thursday, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
I plan on to attend, but as we work through the budget with new council members, is there an opportunity for more of a question and answer type of budget session where we don't necessarily need a presentation, but I have several questions. Instead of emailing Amy, I would love to be able to have the opportunity as a new council member to ask those questions. Is that something we could do?
We also will, in addition to the ad hoc meeting, which I'm happy for any non-committee member to attend and ask questions at that meeting, but we'll also have a council workshop meeting where everyone can input, ask questions. There may be a presentation with it, but I mean, that hopefully will be helpful.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have the date on the top of my head, but they're both coming up.
18th, Mayor, it's the 18th.
3 to 5.
Okay, Councilmember Waring and then Griffin.
Oh, I just wanted to congratulate Ms. Hardina on being in debt to City Council at the end of this meeting. That's all.
Pizza.
I was hoping you were going to forget that, but I do have a filibuster planned for 25 minutes, if that's okay with you. So, but I owe you all pizza at the next time we get together in person. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
New York City Pizza on East Bay Street is one of my favorite places.
And I apologize. I'm not sure why my camera isn't working right now, but a bet's a bet. You won. So thank you.
Councilmember Griffin.
Yes, sir. I just, we talked about this before, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to see if you were still planning on putting up one more public hearing for people to give their response to the budget or whatever budget request that we could put that out there one more time because it wasn't that well attended last time.
Yes, sir. We are planning on having another public hearing on the budget.
That'll be next meeting. Can I start, or do you think first meeting in December?
It's
Amy,
usually the
or-
first meeting in December. That's when we have the public hearing for the budget. Is usually the first meeting in December.
Okay. Well, I'll start letting people know that to be on. Thank you.
Great. And it'll be here before you know it, because, in December, we meet the first and third Tuesday, not second and fourth. I know we got agenda meetings almost on top of each other in the next week. Great. All right. There being no further business, we stand adjourned. I think we've set a record. We're off to a good start. God bless you.
All right, take care.